I'm not supposed to be talking. The radio said to stay silent, but the thing outside won't stop calling. It circles the ranger station, slow and patient. Its steps rippling through the floodwater like something testing the walls. Every few seconds, I hear the faint splash of something dragging behind it, heavy, deliberate, almost human. The static on the radio isn't random either. Sometimes, in between the bursts, I hear a voice. My voice. If you ever hear your own voice echo from the swamp, I whisper, don't answer. It used to answer when I called its name. That's how it started, before I understood that the Everglades don't just move. They listen. They remember now, the generator's dying, and the reflection in the window blinks a second too late. It wasn't about wildlife. It was about something else entirely. Something watching, but it didn't start like this. It started with a job posting and a list of rules. The road to the station felt endless, a cracked strip of asphalt swallowed by sawgrass and humidity. The Everglades don't welcome you. They absorb you. By the time I reached the ranger outpost, the air itself felt alive, humming with insects and something heavier beneath. Cole met me on the porch, cigarette dangling, eyes sunburned and tired. He looked like someone who hadn't slept in years. Without a word, he handed me a sun-faded binder stamped U.S. Park Service safety protocols. The corners were soft, waterlogged, like it had survived more than rain. Gators aren't the problem out here, he said. It's the reflections. I laughed, but he didn't. The swamp stretched behind him, mirror flat, the sky too perfectly copied in the water. For a second, it looked like we were standing on the edge of the world, staring down at ourselves. They said my first week would test my sanity, I muttered. They didn't lie. I thought the rules were for the tourists. Then I read them. The binder wasn't a manual. It was a warning disguised as procedure. Each page was sun-bleached, smudged with swamp water and something darker. The first few rules made sense. Maintenance schedules, animal tracking, radio codes. Then it shifted. Rule 1. Never go near the water after sunset. Rule 2. If your flashlight beam splits, turn it off immediately. Rule 3. Do not respond to distress calls. Past midnight, we check in the morning. Rule 4. Always lock the observation deck at 3:03 a.m. Rule 5. If someone knocks on the station door, check the cameras first. The rest blurred between superstition and survival. Half of Rule 9 was blacked out entirely. The redacted line marked for internal staff only. I flipped through the pages, half amused, half unsettled. Bureaucratic ghost stories, I said to no one. But that night, the wind carried something across the swamp. Not a howl, not a coyote. It was screaming. It was close to midnight when the radio hissed to life. Through the static, a voice bled through, calm, familiar, but wrong. Ranger Davis, requesting assistance. Coordinates the numbers repeated 3 times, low and deliberate. I checked the roster. There was no Davis, not in any report, not in any log. Cole appeared in the doorway, face pale under the emergency lights. Turn it off, he said. That's not a call, you answer, but it's a distress signal, I protested. Someone could be, he shook his head. The swamp remembers voices. That's how it gets you. The radio crackled again, louder this time, and through the static, my name slid out in that same tone. Perfectly mimicked. I stared at the coordinates scribbled in my notebook. The forbidden zone, deep past the tree line. Cole turned away. You didn't hear that, he muttered. But I did, and against every rule, every warning I went anyway. The deeper I went, the quieter it became. No crickets, no frogs, just the sound of my own boots sinking into the black water. The trees leaned in like eavesdroppers, their branches slick with dew that shimmered without light. I tried to keep my bearings, but the trail kept shifting, bending back on itself. Every puddle mirrored my face too clearly, the reflections rippling even when I stood still. Then I saw it half buried in the muck. A ranger's hat, torn, sun-bleached. I brushed off the mud and froze. The stitched name tag read my name. I stumbled back, heart hammering, my flashlight trembling in my hand. The air hummed, heavy with static. And for a second I could have sworn I saw movement in the reflection beneath me, something walking just half a step behind. Almost synchronized. It wasn't déjà vu. It was duplication, and that's when the beam from my flashlight split in two. The beam of my flashlight fractured mid-air, splitting clean down the middle like a vein of light torn apart. One half stayed fixed on the ground in front of me. The other drifted forward, bobbing gently through the fog, as if someone else were holding it. I whispered, "Cole." But the name came back wrong, stretched and wet, like it was echoing from underwater. I followed anyway. The second light glided deeper into the swamp, where the water rose to my knees, then my waist. The air stank of rot and electricity. Beneath the surface, my reflection shimmered off by half a second, like it was remembering how to be me. Then it smiled first. The flashlight blinked out, both beams collapsing into black. Somewhere in the dark, something exhaled through my own lungs. I ran until the mud turned to gravel, until the ranger station's floodlights cut through the mist. I made it back soaked to the bone, but not all of me did. Cole found me wringing swamp water from my uniform, his face lined with something older than fear. He shut the blinds and poured 2 fingers of whiskey into a cracked mug. "You weren't supposed to go past the cypress line," he said quietly. "That place doesn't forget easy." When I asked what he meant, he sighed. "Those rules, they're not for safety. They're containment. Back in '78, a team went missing out there. We kept getting their check-ins for weeks. Clear voices, correct codes, even their jokes. But when we traced the signals, there was no one left to talk to." He rubbed his temples. "You can't kill what's already remembering itself. Every time the swamp takes one of us, it learns the rules better." I wanted to argue, to call it trauma or folklore until the security feed flickered on its own. 2 figures stood outside the station. Both of them were me. On the monitor, I watched myself standing outside the ranger station, soaked, smiling faintly, one hand raised in a slow, deliberate wave. But I was still inside, still breathing, still watching. Cole went rigid beside me. "Don't move," he whispered. The other me tilted its head, grin stretching wider than skin should allow, then rapped 3 times on the door. The sound echoed through the room, sharp, hollow, too heavy for wood. Cole's voice cracked. "Don't answer it. That's how it gets in." The figure leaned closer to the camera. Its lips moved, perfectly in sync with the next knock. Through the walls, I heard my own voice whisper, soft and low, "Rule 9 was for you." Cole started crying, muttering prayers that didn't sound like English. I couldn't look away. It smiled again with my teeth, and for the first time, I understood it wasn't trying to enter. It was trying to trade places. So I read the last rule. Rule 9 wasn't printed in the binder. It was carved into the back cover, letters warped by damp. The swamp keeps what it copies. Cole sat across from me, eyes hollow, voice trembling. The Everglades don't grow. They remember. Every sound, every movement, every thought that touches the water, it learns. And once it learns enough, he gestured toward the window, where the flood line shimmered faintly. It replaces. He looked at me then, and for a second I saw something flicker behind his pupils, something slower, rehearsed. I'm not the first, Cole, he said, just the one that lasted longest. I felt the ground hum beneath the station, like the soil itself was breathing. The Everglades aren't alive, I whispered. They're remembering us into extinction. Cole nodded. We don't manage the park. We feed it. That's when I decided to leave. But my reflection was already ahead of me. I made it out. At least, that's what I tell myself. The road back to civilization was just as endless as when I came in. Same crooked trees, same fog that smelled like wet copper. But the silence was wrong. It felt practiced. People at the next outpost said I looked pale. They said my voice sounded off. I laughed, but it echoed a second too late. That's when I heard the radio behind me. My voice, the real one, calling from the swamp. Static, then a scream, then nothing. If you ever visit the Everglades and a ranger waves you away, don't wave back. This isn't a story. It's a transfer of memory. And if you're hearing this upload, then it learned WI-FE. The swamp doesn't kill you. It replaces who stops following the rules.